What's up, guys, and welcome back to Bass Fishing Tips. And in today's video, we're going to be talking about the top 5 baits for the month of August. Now, August it's a crazy month for bass fishing, to be totally honest with you guys. And the reason it is that is because August is a transitional month. August is the transition between summer and fall. It's really the gateway between summer and fall. And what's really crazy about the month of August is if you look at it as a whole month, like from beginning to end, we can have crazy transitions. From the first day of the month to the last day of the month, it can seem like a completely different season, whereas from day to day, you can do the same exact thing. And it's just simply because fall is on its way. The earth is literally physically tilting away from the sun, getting lower in the sky. It starts making the big macro changes in the environment. I mean, literally from the beginning of the month to the end of the month, we'll see trees go from green to their colors start to dull out, and even start seeing some of those first peaks of fall start to come in, and the weather can do the same exact thing. We can go from like what it is today, a high of 100 with a heat index of 108. I'm literally sitting here drenched in sweat making this video for you guys, to where 3 days from now we have projected highs in the 70s and lows in the 60s, and then it's just supposed to flip-flop right back. And so August can be a tough month for bass fishing, but I've got 5 baits here that I think will help you guys, whether you're from the boat, bank, or the kayak, to go out to catch some fish and to have some fun this month bass fishing. And so without any further ado, actually one further ado, we are doing a giveaway in this video, so make sure you stick around to figure out how to enter the giveaway. And then make sure to go back and check the comment section from last month. I commented back to the winner and they never reached out to me. And so I have kind of taken that little care package that was going to be used for last month's giveaway, and I'm going to put it on a future video. But make sure if I comment back to you on this video that you comment back to me and that you get my email from me, so that I can get your care package out to you and you can get your prize that you won by entering the giveaway. So make sure and stick around with that. Now, without any further ado, let's get into this video. Let's start talking about the baits for the month of August. So, in no particular order, but kind of in a particular order, bait number 1 is going to be the Wacky rig stick bait. This is a mainstay for me. Literally, like I said, you know, at the beginning of spring when we started making these videos, there are videos that will, you know, or there are baits that will show up in multiple monthly bait videos, and one of those is the Wacky rigged stick bait. And it's because it's one of the most consistent fish catchers that we have available to us. You know, I did a video on fishing the Wacky rigged stick bait where I said probably at this point in history there have been billions of fish caught on this little deal, and I really truly believe that this is one of the most fish catching baits of all time. And you know, especially in the month of August, and especially for bank anglers, pond anglers, anytime you're dealing with really pressure bodies of water, you know, this time of year we really hit the pinnacle of pressure on our bodies of water. We've had all spring, all summer, you know, and there's going to be that last hurrah before all the kids go back to school, that there is just an immense amount of boat pressure out on our lakes, our rivers, our creeks, everything like that. And so having a bait that can help you to get bites, still get big bites, and just help you to kind of break through that pressure is what we need. And the Wacky rig stick bait, in my opinion, is the #1 bait to do that. You know, and just yesterday I went out on one of the most pressure bodies of water around here and ended up catching a bunch of fish using a Wacky rig stick bait and just having a ton of fun. Now, one of my favorite colors this time of year is either a straight black or like this little doohickey right here. It's a little black with chartreuse on the tail. I love black because it contrasts everything around it. You know, if you read the book Knowing Bass, black is one of the most effective colors because black, you know, it doesn't do a good job of mimicking anything in particular. It just does a good job of contrasting the water around the bass, the bottom around the bass, the entire environment around the bass, and the bass can see it really, really well. And then when you do something like the little black and chartreuse, it does something else that the book Knowing Bass talks about, which is contrast itself. You know, when a bait actually contrasts itself within its colors, it helps a bass to see it even more. And so I think, again, you know, when we're dealing with really pressured bass, just giving them something that they can see, that they can feel, and then with the max scent that they can smell, can really seal the deal on getting really finicky bass to bite and putting those fish into the boat bank or the kayak or wherever you guys happen to be fishing. And so bait number 1 is going to be a Wacky rigged stick bait. I would not leave the house without this bait this time of year. And just a little side note, someone asked me the other day, you know, how do you decide whether to Texas rig or Wacky rig? If you want to do a weightless Texas rig, that's perfectly fine. I do it quite a bit, especially when I'm fishing around like really, really heavy cover, or I'm fishing around grass cover, but I still want that weightless stick bait presentation. I'll do it on just a simple EWG hook, help to keep it weedless for you guys. But Wacky rig is like my #1 go-to, and then, you know, a weedless rig or a weightless Texas rig is number 2, especially if I'm just trying to keep it out of crap. But definitely got to have the stick bait rigged, ready to go this time of year, because it's just going to catch fish. Number 2 is going to be another bait that is just a bite getter, and that for me is a bait that I have tied on this time of year, because what happens a lot of the time this time of year, as you know, everything starts to change like it does. You know, those lake temperatures start to really peak as high as they're going to get all year before they go and start to transition and start to drop back off. You're going to have a lot of bait fish start moving up shallow. And as those bait fish move up shallow, there's going to be a population of bass that get up there and want to eat them. And this happens in creeks, rivers, ponds, lakes. It doesn't matter. And as that water kind of stagnates as well, you know, as it gets as warm as it's going to get, there's not a ton of water movement. A lot of those shad will start to move up shallow trying to find oxygenated water, and they'll start to die off, because the shad, being the smallest of the fish in the environment, are the first ones to actually go. They're kind of like an indicator of what the overall environment's like. And as that starts to happen, bass will start hammering on those bait fish. And one of the best ways to get those fish to bite that are keyed in on those bait fish is with a weightless fluke or soft jerk bait style bait. Absolutely love the soft jerk bait, fluke, whatever you guys want to call it. These are Berkley jerk shads. It's one of my favorite. But these little dudes right here, ponds, rivers, creeks, like I said, it doesn't matter. When those fish are up shallow, when they're feeding on bait fish, this is one of the best tools to catch them with. And 2, if you live on a lake like up north that's full of smallmouth that are eating on bait fish, you know, that water's not going to be as warm as it is where I'm at here in the country. But when you're up north, those bait fish will still start to transition shallow. You'll start to get that early morning kind of topwater subsurface thing going on. Smallmouth will do it. Or if you live on a lake like Lanier, full of blueback herring, full of spotted bass, that is one of the most deadly tools that you can throw. And one of my favorite things to do with it this time of year is work it really, really fast. I've noticed that, you know, with the water temperatures as being as high as they are, and when those bass are actually chasing those bait fish and focused in on those bait fish, a lot of the times, if you work this bait too slow, I think they get a good look at it and they just don't want to eat it, because I think they've seen so many other baits and they've probably seen 10,000 other flukes that when they get a good look at it, something in their instincts say, yeah, no, don't eat that. Where when I'm working it really, really fast, just making it dart really erratically, a lot of those times those bass will just fire up right behind it. If I kill it just really, really quick, they'll lash out, they'll kill it. And it's one of my favorite ways to fish this thing this time of year. Quick intermission. Just grab my bag of plastics here. But like, and I talked about this in the video where I actually broke down fish and flukes. I've done a video on wacky rigs and fish and flukes. And I talked about one of my favorite retrieves being a burn and stop, and literally just using the reel, making that bait move really, really quickly. And this right now, this time of year is really, really where I lean into that sort of retrieve and tend to get some really, really big bites doing it. I've actually got a rod rigged up with these on it right now to go take on a little river float that I'm gonna be doing here in a couple days, because this is, like I said, just one of the most deadly tools that we can have. This and the wacky rig are mainstays for catching fish no matter where you're at or what time of year it is. And so why not put 2 of the most deadly tools that we've got in our hand in one of the most tough times of year that we're gonna be fishing. And so bait number 2 is just a weightless Texas rigged fluke style or soft jerk bait style bait. The next one is going to be one that I did a video on just a couple days ago, and it's one that, like I said, pond, lake, river, it doesn't matter. If you've got tough, warm weather, warm water, summertime bass, and they've seen 10,000 other things and you want to show them a little something different, whip out the big worm, and in particular in the color purple. I love purples this time of year, whether it be a June bug, a plum apple, a tequila sunrise. it doesn't matter. Anything that has some purple in it is a color that I want to throw, and it's no different with my big worms, and especially with my big worms. Now, one of my favorites, and I talked about this in this video, is just like a Magnum trick style worm. You know, it's that bigger, fatter overall profile, a little bit longer. This is a 7-inch, but just that straight do nothing tail helps to, I think, get a lot of those finicky bass to bite. When they've seen 1,000 curly tail worms, when they've seen, you know, 1,000 other different kinds of worms, when you show them just a straight tail worm like this, I think it being just very finesse, very non-intrusive, you can get those bass to bite. Now, another thing that I love to do with this, and again, I talked about it in that video, is that Alabama shake. And what I mean by that is when I throw this worm out there, just on a simple Texas rig, I let it hit the bottom. I'm not just doing a straight drag or a straight retrieve with this thing. What I actually like to do is I like to hop the slack in my line 3 or 4 times and then pulse that worm up off the bottom, make it shoot up off the bottom, and then let it fall back down, and then just repeat that process. I've noticed this time of year that I can get a ton of bites with that retrieve. And again, I think it's just because they've seen 1,000 things drug by their face, whether it be a jig, a Carolina rig, a worm, whatever it is. And so when you mix up the retrieve, when you mix up the color, when you show them just a little something different, you can get those bass to bite. And I'll make sure and link these videos that I'm talking about down below. I always do. If I mention a video that I've made on this channel in another video, I'll make sure and link it down below. So I'll make sure and link the Wacky rig video, the fluke video, and then the big worm video as well. But just fishing this thing on a simple unpegged or pegged Texas rig, either one, however you want to fish it, anywhere from 1/4 to a 1/2 ounce weight, 5/0 EWG hook, just keeping it really, really simple. But like I said, ponds, lakes, rivers, pressure bodies of water, this is one of the best tools that you can pick up and that you can fish this time of year, because it's just gonna get bit. And normally with the big worm, when it does get bit, it's gonna be a big bass. I say that, and what's really funny is I can't tell you how many times I've caught freaking 10 to 12 inch bass on 10 to 12 inch worms. Like, it doesn't make any sense. I don't even know how they think they can eat it, but I like their attitudes, because that sort of attitude and eating big bait like that is what turns them into really big bass. And so I'm not gonna complain, but definitely pick up the big worm. Now, the next bait is an old school bait. It's a bait that I think a lot of people have forgotten about, and I have definitely not. And this is one that I can remember being a kid and my dad just slaying the bass on, handing them to me, and just catching a bunch of fish on them. And even my father-in-law, I have a very fond memory. One of the first times I was ever around my father-in-law, before he was my father-in-law, when he was still just Bethany's dad, which is my wife, we went out to a lake during literally August, the hottest month of the year, went in the back of this cove. He picked this bait up, threw it up on a tree, and caught like a 3.5 pounder. And we were on a pontoon boat, and I was leaning over the front of the pontoon boat like Kevin Van Dam trying to lip this bass. And it's just one of the funniest stories and funniest times I remember. But it's one of those things, like, even a guy like Brian, who's not exactly a bass fisherman but just enjoys fishing, knew what to tie on this time of year to go fishing, because it is a mainstay for us. And again, kind of old school, but still gets bit, and that is the lizard. Yes, the lizard. Just a good old-fashioned lizard. Man, you can't beat a lizard this time of year. And I wish I had some sort of explanation as to why a lizard works as well as it does, but it just does. And I think a lot of it has to do, especially now, with it being sort of an old school lure, they're just not seeing it anymore. You know, you've got a lot going on. You've got little appendages on the side, you know, those little ribbon tails on the side, ribbon tail on the back, completely different profile, very long, very slender, does a good job of mimicking things like salamanders and other water amphibians that bass might be eating on. But I think just right now, in the time that we're in bass fishing, generally, they've not seen the lizard in a long time, and for me, it's going to be a bait that I pick up and that I'm going to throw. And what's really cool about the lizard is, like a lot of the baits that all the baits that we've listed here today, you can Texas rig it, you can Carolina rig it, you can fish it on a wobble head, fish it on a shaky head. It doesn't matter. There's so many different ways to fish it. Now, personally, I'm just going to be Texas rigging this thing. Texas rigging it on an unpegged Texas rig, 4 to 5/0 hook, and kind of giving it that Alabama shake like I do with the big worm, flipping it, pitching it, putting it into areas that I would normally put a creature bait or some other style bait, put the worm in there, and you guys are going to get bit. And, you know, for pond anglers especially, I cannot tell you how many times I've gone to farm ponds and, you know, public ponds and just pressured bodies of water, places like that you think there's probably not a salamander within 600 miles of here, but you tie on a lizard and you go out there and you get bit. And so don't sleep on the lizard this time of year, especially in these purple colors. This one is plum. There you go. One of my favorite colors. Again, something with that purpley kind of red in it. I wish I knew why. I kind of have a little bit of a scientific explanation. It's actually from the book Knowing Bass. It talks about how in, you know, deeper, darker color waters, you know, those purples and those blues stand out really, really good to bass. And, you know, this time of year, we really hit the pinnacle of like algae bloom as well. You know, a lot of people, when you think about like summer, the water gets really, really green and gets a lot of color to it. And a lot of that has to do with, you know, influx of rain and, you know, water into bodies of water flow. But then too, a lot of people discount like phytoplankton blooms and plankton blooms that happen within bodies of water. And as that happens, as that water starts to get more and more particulate in it, less and less light penetration actually gets to the bottom. And that includes from 5 feet to 50 feet, you know, just there's not as much light penetration. And so I think colors like black, purple, blue, those really, really good dark silhouetted colors start to do better because bass can actually see them better as we get later and later and it gets warmer and warmer and warmer. And especially if you live on a lake with grass, as that grass starts to bloom and as it starts to grow, you know, you're going to have that point in which you've got that like the greenest, most dense water that you're going to have all year long, and then it'll start to clean up as it starts to cool off and as that, you know, grass starts to filter out some of that particulate. But, you know, farm ponds, you know, public ponds, or any lake that you guys are fishing, picking up those darker colors, something with a little blue, a little purple in it, can get bit. And it's no different with the lizard. And do not sleep on the lizard. Lord of mercy, I love throwing the lizard. I need to actually tie one up. Going fishing tomorrow. I'm going to tie one up and go drag it around. See if we can get bit fishing a lizard. Wouldn't be bad at all. Now, before we get into the last bait, let me tell you guys how to win the giveaway. Kind of guys probably know, if you've been around here for a minute, how these giveaways work. It's really, really simple. Subscribe to the channel, like this video, and comment down below your favorite bait for the month of August. And if you're brand new to bass fishing, tell me which one of these baits you're looking forward to the most of fishing. If you do that, you'll enter the giveaway. And like I said, please, if I comment back so that you guys can get your giveaway package. And like I said, giveaway package for the month of July, I'm just going to kind of tack it on to another video in the month of August, so be on the lookout for that. And so without any further ado, last bait for the month of August is going to be a big pencil popping style topwater bait. When we think topwater fishing this time of year, I really think about the biggest, most aggressive topwaters that I got. And really, as we move into August and then eventually into fall, September, October, big, loud topwaters are my go-to. And I'm actually gonna be doing a video about all the different topwater baits for fall fishing. And it's one of the reasons I love fall fishing as much as I do, is because of big topwater blowups and big topwater bites that you can get. But August really is kind of the gateway into that awesome topwater bite. And one of the baits that I love to use, like I said, is a pencil, like Dr. Pimple Popper. No, a pencil popping style bait. So what is that for you guys that don't know? So this looks like a traditional walking bait, but it's got that cup on the front. Kind of looks like a popper. And what this bait is meant to do is work like a walking style bait with that back and forth action, but it's going to be a lot more aggressive. Instead of kind of being a snake or a walk the dog, it's almost a 90-degree turn as you walk this bait back. And as you make that 90-degree turn, that little mouth on the front is going to grab water and it's going to sling water away from this bait. And it's big, it's aggressive, it's really, really loud and really intrusive. And a lot of the times this time of year, you can call fish up out of deep water to come up and to eat this thing. And this doesn't matter if you're on spotted bass lakes, smallmouth lakes, or largemouth lakes. There are bass that are sitting in that 10 to 15 foot range that are willing to go all the way to the top and eat something if it's worth their time and or something about the presentation gets their attention. So like I said when we were talking about the fluke, you're gonna have a lot of bait fish that move up shallow this time of year. And there's going to be bass that want to move up and then want to eat them. And what's crazy, and you've probably noticed this all throughout the summer if you've been bass fishing for a while, sometimes you'll hook a fish and there'll be 1 or 2 or 3 or 10 fish that follow it out trying to eat the bait out of their mouth. And that's because bass are inherently competitive with each other. They compete for food. And so when one bass gets a hold of something or tries to eat something, other bass are just generally attracted to it because they want that same opportunity that that bass had to get a meal. And so these big walking in you know, pencil popper style topwaters really do a good job of not only mimicking, you know, dying bait fish on top, but mimicking that aggressive blow up and that action of bass actually feeding up. This is kind of like, you know, attracting a shark. You know, they say, you know, you watch these movies and these videos, these documentaries about like great whites that come up and eat seals. This is the same kind of deal. You're just essentially creating a lot of commotion on top of the water, something that mimics something dying, something eating, something being ate by a predatory fish to get those bass to come up and to try to, you know, compete with other fish and try to eat this topwater. And I love it. This is literally one of my favorite things to do, and this is kind of counterintuitive to all topwater fishing, but just a little, I guess, gem of knowledge here. One of my favorite things to do is in the middle of the day when it gets really, really hot, when the sun's out, is go and get in a little bit deeper water, you know, get over some brush piles, get over a big point, or if you're in a pond, go to the deepest part of that pond, pick up this topwater, toss it out there and just start working it back, really chugging it back and forth, making that thing really sling some water. And when a bass comes undone on this one, unlike our big worm where I kind of made fun of it, when a bass comes undone on this, it's going to be a really, really big bite. And if you're lucky, you'll get bass competing. You'll call up one, which will make 5 more want to follow it and try to figure out what's going on. Then you get bass competing over these topwaters, and it can be one of the most fun topwater bites that you get on all year long. And this is especially true if you live on lakes with spotted bass. Like I said, this works, smallmouth, largemouth, and spots, but spotted bass lakes in particular, you know, lakes that have blueback herring, that have spotted bass in them, throwing these big, loud topwaters this time of year can get some of the biggest, most aggressive bites, and if not the biggest bite that you will get all year long. And so pick up a big pencil popper, add it to your arsenal, because it is such a fun bite. It's such a fun way to catch bass this time of year. And so there you go, guys. That's the top 5 baits for the month of August. I literally have sweat dripping off of my face. It's running down my legs, and my shirt is literally wet from sweat after making this video for you guys. But here we are. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. And so if you guys enjoyed this video, click this video. It's popping up right here.